Good morning, students. We are doing the chapter Reproduction in Plants, in which we discussed about the asexual reproduction, vegetative propagation, different methods of asexual reproduction like budding, fragmentation, spore formation, etc. Then we discussed about vegetative propagation through stem, then through roots and leaves. Now today I am going to start the topic that is sexual reproduction in plants. Sexual reproduction requires the involvement of two individuals, typically one of each sex. That means one male and one female individuals are required for sexual reproduction. Normal human reproduction is a common example of a sexual reproduction. In flowering plants, the reproductive parts are located in the flower. Now, most flowers have sepals, petals, stamens, and pistils. Sepals form the outermost whole or green leaf like structures. They protect the inner parts of the flower during the bud stage. Sepals protect the inner part of flower during the bud stage. Petals are usually brightly colored and may also produce fragrance. Petals help to attract insects for pollination. Due to their bright color, they attract the insects for pollination. Stamen is the male reproductive part. It consists of an anther and a filament. These are the two parts of stamen. Pollen grains are produced in the anther. Pistil is the female reproductive part which consists of ovary and ovules. Now, students, I am going to inform you about an interesting thing, that is the largest flower present on the earth's surface, that is Rafflesia. The name of the flower is Rafflesia, belongs to a group of parasitic stemless leafless plants with a distinctive putrid odor. The plants are native to Malay archipelago and Indonesia and live on the stems and roots of certain woody vines. The large pink five-lobed flowers are pollinated by carrion flies. The blossom of one species, the corpse lily, is recognized as the largest flower in the world. It grows up to 91 centimeter in width with petals 3 centimeter thick and 46 centimeter long and weighs as much as 7 kg. Now, the next thing is, as I said, in sexual reproduction, there is the requirement of two individuals. So, now I am going to explain you something about different types of flowers. They are unisexual and bisexual flowers. Flowers may contain either only pistil, that is the female reproductive part, or only stamen, that is the male reproductive part, or both. That means a flower may contain only female reproductive part, only male reproductive part, or it may contain both the parts. Flowers of some plants like papaya and corn have either only pistils or only stamens. Such flowers are called unisexual flowers. The flowers which contain only stamen or only pistil, they are called unisexual flowers. A unisexual flower may be a male flower or a female flower. Flowers of some plants like tomato, brinjal and mustard have both stamens and pistils in every flower. Such flowers are called bisexual flowers. If the flower is having both the parts, both the reproductive parts like stamen and pistil, then it is said to be as bisexual flowers. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants follows the life cycle as shown in the picture. The first stage is the seed germination, then the plant grows, then it bears the flowers, and then it produces fruits. The fruits releases seeds, and after that the plant dies, and from seed again there is a new plant grow. So this is the life cycle of a flowering plant. Now we will discuss about pollination. as you studied in earlier classes, that the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma in flowers is known as pollination. Pollen grains are produced in anther and then it is transferred to stigma, which is a part of female reproductive part present in flower, and that process is known as pollination. Pollen grains may transferred from anther to stigma of the same flower, then it is known as self-pollination. And when it is transferred to a flower on a different plant of the same kind, then it is known as cross-pollination. Now, how these pollen grains get transferred from anther to stigma? They require some agents which are known as pollinators. Pollinators are the agents that carry or transfer the pollen grains from an anther to a stigma. Wind, bees, butterfly and many other insects, birds, rats and bats are the main pollinators in nature. In some aquatic plants, water is an agent of pollination. All these are different pollinators present in nature which help in pollination. Pollen grains are very light and are microscopic in size. They contain the male reproductive cell. Each pollen grain has a distinctive outer wall that is tough and resistant to decay. The pattern present on this outer wall are distinctive of a species of plant. Now, the wind pollinated flowers have their anthers situated at a higher level than the petals. This led the pollen grains to get blown away by wind. The insects pollinated flowers are brightly colored and have nectar glands. These releases a sweet liquid like nectar that attracts insects. Now student, I am going to discuss about the fertilization. Pollen grains germinate when they fall on the stigma of a flower of the same species. That means after pollination, the pollen grains germinate on the stigma of the flower. A pollen tube is produced that reaches the ovule. The male and female reproductive cells called gametes fuse to form a zygote. This process of fusion of the male and female gametes is called fertilization. The zygote then divides inside the ovule to form a baby plant called the embryo. And after the fertilization, the sepals, petals, stamens and stigma usually dry up and fall off. Then the ovules forms the seeds. A seed has cotyledons to store food and that food is for the future plant, that is the embryo. Then after fertilization, the ovary begins to grow and forms the fruit. The fruits may be sweet and juicy like mango and orange, or they may be hard and woody like almond and walnut. The fruit is thus actually a ripened ovary. Then germination of seed under suitable condition. The seed germinates to form a seedling that grows into a new plant, and then again the same processes will take place to complete the life cycle of a flowering plant. So students, we have completed the sexual reproduction today, sexual reproduction in plants. So that's all for today. Only one topic, seed dispersal, is left, that we will discuss in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.